as I'm planning for my retirement, I'm starting to realize that it's getting more and more difficult. The money is difficult to come by, things are getting more expensive, and the demands for money are just becoming higher and higher. So I decided to think about ways that I can actually make money on the side. In my case, there's a lot of things that are going on at the farm that needs a lot of money for development to happen. And I also need a car. I need at least £15,000 to get a decent Toyota Hilux or any of these twin cabs for me to take home. So, as you can imagine, if I use my main source of income, which is my business, to fund that, it's almost going to be impossible to do that. So, the question now becomes, how else can I make more money for me to be able to meet all these things that I'm trying to do for my retirement? And I thought I would share some of these ideas with you. Some of these ideas, I will be going into them, but this is more like all the opportunities that we can go into. Now, this is mainly targeted to people in the diaspora, of course. Now, this some of these services are specific to the UK, but of course you may find similar ones in Australia, America, New Zealand, Canada, or wherever you are. So the first solution to making money on the side to help with your retirement or with your projects back home is to become a delivery driver. So this is something that you can do on the weekends. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, I'm tired, I need to rest, and I need to do all sorts of things. That's true, but what I've realized in this relocation program, or for anyone that wants to make it great in the future, or if this is for your retirement, you have to sacrifice. There is no doubt about it. Unless, of course, you are one of those people with a really, really good job and you've got a lot of disposable income, which you can redirect to whatever projects you want to work on. So, delivery driving, that to me is definitely something to look at. And there's a few options. There's Uber Eats, there's Deliveroo, there's also Just Eat. So, doing this on evenings and weekends could be an opportunity to make that extra money to fund the projects back home, or to even put the money aside towards whatever it is that you want to do. Of course, everyone is going to have different options. Some have 2-year plans, some have 5-year plans, and so on. But these are just ideas that you can think about and do. And there's nothing wrong with these type of jobs. The second one is being an Uber driver. Now, I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's only that I don't have a decent car. The car I'm in right now, I bought this for £200, as you can imagine, £200 car. Now, this came about because my son called me and said his friend was getting rid of his car. So I asked him what make it was, and he said it was a Honda Civic. So I did a bit of research about the Honda Civics, and I realized that they're actually very, very reliable cars. So I asked for the year, and the year is 2009. And again, I went back on the internet and I was doing some research about the engine's reliability of the Honda Civics. And what I found was 2007 to 2012, the engines were solid. So that made me convinced that this was the right thing to do. Now, of course, then the question was on the 200, what sort of car is worth 200? So anyway, I just said, you know what, drive it down if you can still drive it. And it was driven from Nottingham, which was brilliant. But I had a few problems, obviously. I mean, a $200 car is a car that's ready to go to the scrapyard. Okay. So I thought, you know what, this could be my project car. I can, buy my toolbox, start fixing things myself, do the service myself, and repair anything that needs to be repaired. So anyway, turns out the car had very serious rust under the car. And the rust was so bad that when I went for quotations, I was quoted 800, 1,200. I couldn't believe that welding services cost that much. But of course, bear in mind that the rusting was very bad as well. And then it had also other issues like the exhaust needed changing, the handbrake needed fixing, and so on. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this car is not to say that I'm going to be using this as a delivery car or an Uber car. No, I'm mentioning this because there are other services out there that one can think of going into. Like, for example, right now I'm thinking of going into welding, buying a welding machine. Maybe this service is something I can do in my spare time when I'm in Zimbabwe. But even here, if I can get a good place where I can go for the training and I'm able to do it, I can market myself online and just do this once in a while and make sure that this money is money that I'm using on the side. So yes, so back to the Uber driving. Uber driving, in my opinion, is really, really powerful because you can work in your own times. If you're not feeling like working, you don't have to go. So it's very, very flexible. So if you're one of those people that like working weekends, weekends are very busy. I know that because I used prior to getting this car, I was using Uber. It can be very, very busy. So that's another way to make money. Another way to make money, especially if you have a car, is Amazon Flex Driver. So this is where you get to deliver Amazon parcels, but using your own car. And this is something that I'm actually considering now that I have this car. I got it very, very cheap. I managed to get it roadworthy through an MOT. I mean, it's serviced now. And so far, it's driving well. I mean, there's nothing I can complain about. The engine is solid. So this is something that I'll definitely might think of doing very, very soon. Okay, let's move on to the next item. And this is the car boot sales. Now, I'm not sure if this is popular in other countries, but in the UK here, car boot selling is very, very popular. You can find a lot of really, really nice things at car boot sales. So the strategy here is to buy things off of the car boot sale and then sell them on eBay. And this in itself is really, really easy. I still buy a lot of things on eBay. In fact, when I was buying parts for this car, like the brakes and so on, I was getting all this on eBay. Even my Land Rover Discovery parts, I still get them on eBay. So eBay is the place to go. But of course, this is going to be like a long-term thing. Remember, these things that I'm suggesting are side hustles, okay? These are things that are making you money on the side alongside your main business. I know a guy who used to collect sofas. There are some areas where, like these wealthy people, they have these, I think they call Chester something sofas. Very, very nice sofas. So they get rid of them quickly and then he gets them for a very, very cheap price. And the guy is still doing it even till today. He gets these sofas and then sells them on eBay. And even when you purchase them, I think it's Chesterfield sofas. Even when you get them on eBay, they're still cheap. So he's been making so much money. He's been doing this for 15 years now. Every time he buys these sofas, he polishes them, cleans them. If there's the bit of repairing that needs to be done, he repairs them and then puts them on eBay and sells them. And he actually managed to buy a van. So he actually delivers them as well and charges the delivery fee. And that's his only main job. That's his main job. He doesn't do anything else. So these ideas that I'm talking about, they may not sound very flashy or if you're someone that cares about what people think about what you're doing in life, yeah, it may be something that you may think is not a good thing. But at the end of the day, in my situation, I'm past that. Even when I drive this 2009 Honda Civic, I don't care what people think, because I know that I have goals in life and I have a lot of investments that I'm working on. I could care less, what people think about me, because at the end of the day, it's what I'm aiming to do in my life that matters. So with these things, if you're someone that is very sensitive about what people think, about how you're going to be perceived in society, then it's going to be very, very difficult. But if you're someone that is focused and wants to make something for their life, then this is something that you can think of doing. So that would be a good idea. Next, it may be that you have a really nice house, because a lot of people have, big houses. So an option there with a house like that is renting a room. So let's say you have a spare room that you're not using. If you get a student, the student can rent that room for, a little bit of money. That money can go towards something, But of course, you have to be careful who is coming to stay with you. Okay, you have to do your research, and of course you have to do your background checks. It's very, very important. But that's another way of making money. Now the next idea, this one here is actually very, very important, because there's a lot of people out there with qualifications in so many areas, especially teaching. I remember a time when my son was struggling with the science and maths, and we were looking for tutors online, and these tutors were doing it over Zoom. And one of the ladies was actually Zimbabwean, and we were paying £50 per hour for her lessons. £50 an hour. So remember, this ranged between £20 and £50, but it just depends. But it is very possible that you can get to charge those amounts. And these are sort of things or services that you can do in your spare time, and all you need is an internet connection and a decent laptop. That's it. Nothing special. So tutoring, if you have those type of skills, you're a teacher, this is something that you can do. and it is very, very easy to set up. I mean, if you're someone that uses a computer on a regular basis, you will be able to set up these online conferencing software like Zoom. Okay, so the next one. Now, this one is a bit tricky because you need to do a bit of investment into this. This is your mobile car washing. So you can wash cars. I remember when I used to go to this tennis club in Wolverhampton. There's a really nice tennis club there. My son used to play tennis competitively. And that tennis club used to have a lot of these fancy cars. I mean, you can see Ferraris there, Porsche, Audis, like these really, really nice cars. It was a really high-end tennis club. It had lawn as well. So for those of you who are into tennis, having a tennis court is very, very, what can I say? Most tennis courts are made of this tarmac surface. But if a tennis club has like the grass, it means it's a high-end tennis club. Anyway, this guy, he was doing a lot of detailing when he was doing his car washing, and he would come with all his kits. He would come with all these tools where he would really, really clean the cars. And sometimes you'll charge about 300 per car. 300 per car. Obviously, he's come a long way to be where he is, but this really is a good idea. I'm not saying you're going to be charging 300, but if you start building your base slowly, you can start building up the business really, really easily. Next, gardening services. My neighbor came to me the other day and he says, well, Mac, do you want me to cut your grass and clear your back garden? And then I asked him how much, and he said, well, you can pay me 150. So I managed to negotiate down to 120. But he cleared the garden. I was procrastinating getting all the rubbish that I needed to take to the skip. And of course, I didn't have a car, so things were just piling up in the back garden and the grass was growing. I don't have a lawnmower and I don't have a shed to keep the lawnmower in. But anyway, he managed to, cut all the grass, did all the clippings, done all the hedges, and the garden was looking great. And I was very happy to pay the 120. So these are sort of things that you can do. Knock on doors and just ask people if they want their grass cut. And that in itself can be a business model. So that could be, something that you can think about. Next, let's talk about freelancing skills. Now, this here is, for me, very, very important. In fact, the other day I was speaking to my son. He's studying to be an architect. And I was telling him that you could put your profile on Upwork or Fiverr. And there's quite a few out there. And there could be people that want, their designs to be turned into 3D or even animations. So that's where he comes in and charges, for that service. So that in itself is something that you can do on the side, especially if you have skills in software. Even in my case, I used to do website installations and so on, $20 here, $20 here, $30 here, depending on, how much the work is. Of course, you have to market yourself. And this takes me to the next thing that I want to discuss, and that is to create a personal brand. You need to create a personal brand. So why is this important? Well, if you want to do any of these things, for the most part, things that require you to work online and so on, it is very, very important to create a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel or even an Instagram channel, so that at least people know who they're going to be working with and what sort of person you are. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. I mean, I come from a marketing background. People buy from people, okay? And that's why it's important for you to have a profile where people can actually look and see the person they're going to be dealing with. It just creates that extra layer of trust. Of course, if you come across like a trustworthy person. So these ideas here are very, very important and very, very powerful, because relying on just your salary, that's not a strategy anymore. Things are getting more and more difficult. Things are getting even more and more expensive. Every time I go into Tesco or Asda, two plastic bags can cost in excess of £60. Easily £60, and the stuff that I buy only lasts a couple of days. So things are getting very, very expensive, and the crazy thing is, even there in Zimbabwe on the ground, things are also getting very, very expensive. I don't know if this is because of the demand, where people are really building a lot, or people are really investing back home a lot, that's really raising up the prices. I don't know. It's just crazy that we are now facing these high prices in both countries, the UK and back home. There was a time, I remember, 2007, 2005, where sending money to Zimbabwe, you'd send, as little as £30, and that will go a really, really, really long way. But now things have changed. And this is why I always say to my children that no matter how good a country may seem, you always have to have a backup plan. You always have to have a backup plan. And that backup plan needs to be in Zimbabwe. So one of my sons was asking me, well, if I don't want to live in Zimbabwe, why would I want to invest in Zimbabwe? And my answer to that was, if you don't want to live in Zimbabwe, investing in Zimbabwe is just another way of making money. And even doing something as basic as you're earning your money and you just put it towards just buying stands. Okay, in the main cities, just buying the stands. Just buy the stand and leave it. Don't even do anything. After 5-10 years, you'll find that the price of that stand will have gone up. I remember a time where I inquired about getting a stand next to my house, back home, and the guy told me he wanted 25,000, and this is 200 square meters. 25,000. Now he's asking for 35. 2 years late. 200 square meters. Can you believe that? So anyway, I digress. So I was saying to my son, it's very important that you just invest, build assets back there. You never know when you need them. So if you buy 3 stands, just leave them. You're young, you're not married, you don't have any pressures. Just buy the land, leave it. That's the least you can do. But if you want to be a bit more ambitious, then put that money into long-term projects, So that way it becomes a source of income while you're earning your money wherever you are, whether you're going to be in Europe, whether you're going to be based wherever you are, you're going to be making a lot of money coming also from Zimbabwe. Now, later on, if he decides he wants to build those stands into houses, you can put them as Airbnbs or even rent them out. So if you're getting an average of 600, 700 a month per house, that's a very good income, considering you also have your income from wherever you are based at the time. Later on in life, maybe 20 years later, you decide, you know what, you want to go back home, or you want to sell one of the houses. You'll be selling that house for at least 100,000, because it'll be completely done, built up and everything, especially if you're in Harare, in a good area. So that in itself, imagine, later on in life, you're selling your house for 100,000 and you still have 2 houses left. For a young person, maybe this money you want to use it towards your wedding. That makes things much, much easier. Rent one of the houses, you still have your career, and then live in one of the houses whenever you visit Zimbabwe. So at the end of the day, you'll find that focusing on pushing everything to Zimbabwe right now, in my opinion, is a very, very good idea, because a lot of people want to retire back home and they want very good services. They want all those nice things that people are used to when they're in the diaspora. You see, they want those nice things. Even me on the ground, in my head, at the back of my head, I'm always expecting that high quality service. And if you can provide that while you're, then it's going to be very, very easy to live there. Secondly, on that note, having a service or building like things that are going to go towards, say, a business that you want to do in the future will be fantastic. Like, for example, let's say you want to set up a car repair shop. Start buying the parts now, slowly. So as you send the stuff over, and obviously making sure that it's secure, you start sending your stuff over there. This could be a 5-year plan. But for you to be able to do all these things that I'm talking about, you need to be having these side hustles, unless, of course, you have a fantastic job. Even in farming, slowly, you start buying your solar batteries. You start buying your inverters. You start buying your tanks, welding machines. Anything that can be needed at the farm, you start buying it slowly. So that when you go there, you can just go and just set everything up once and for all. So these are the sort of ideas that I think are important when it comes to making it easier for you to put money towards your projects back home, or even investing. Yes, it may not be desirable. You're taking away weekends where you're supposed to be watching football, for those of you that watch football. But just remember that sacrifice is the key. You have to sacrifice something in order for you to get where you want to be. If all this was very easy, everyone would be, doing it. So that's how I look at it. The people that make it are those who are willing to sacrifice a lot and also to put in the effort. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments box below. I'm very close now to getting all the money that I need for the bricks. So I'm super excited to see the house, being built now to the roof level. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.